here we are. We're gonna recap Taneycomo and get some announcements, get some good stuff to you guys. Here with Josh again. What's up, Josh? How are you?
Doing good, man. I want to welcome everyone to our Taneycomo tournament recap. So let's talk about Taneycomo. We're going to have Richie McMichael on here. We're going to talk to him about his time on the water and maybe get a little bit insight on fishing on Taneycomo. So this ought to be good.
Yeah, man. We tried to get Josh and Dorman on here. I think we ran into some technical difficulties, and Josh is out there spending time with his family. So, congratulations to those guys, and maybe we can get them on at a different time. But let's get into this. What we're doing, and we'll get into our announcements real quick. Uh, August 1st, the River Bonanza MFL or MLF style tournament should be a good one. Good time of the year to be on the river.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking when I originally scheduled it. Try to get us a little bit of shade, a little bit cooler water, during the heat of the summer. So yeah, it's going to be our river tournament. It is going to be extreme, so every fish over 12 inches will count, and that's just coming up in a couple weeks.
Yep, and then right after it, we've got that next weekend. Still looking at the float trip, August 8th. August 22nd, Palm de Terre, not far away. We were talking earlier about, limits there and basketball tournaments, and it seems like it's been tough fishing there, but hopefully by the time we get there, it'll turn around and that lake will be fishing really good.
Yeah, Palmy always does good for us every year. I mean, it's one of those lakes you wouldn't really think of as a great bass lake, but on average, guys go out there and catch a good limit every time. I mean, it's hot. It is during the summertime, so it is a hot lake, and the water temperature does get warm, but people still go out there and catch fish. It's going to be a good tournament.
Yep. Let's talk about our July online going right now. We're about almost done with it. Got about a week left. Jacob McCormick sitting in fifth place. He's in 91 and three quarters. Danny Johnson still sitting up there with that 93 and a half. Troy Caldwell, he's moved into there. He's got 97 and a quarter. And then Peyton and Brennan just going
Mm.
at it, man. Peyton's got that 24-inch bass. I think Brennan, if I looked right, he had another upgrade. I think he upgraded a 21 and a half, so it's putting him at 808 inches and a half. So I mean, he's both of those guys catching some big fish.
Yeah, and they're both friends. They're both fishing in the same area. They're going out and just duking it out. It's kind of cool to watch and see, just how high of a score they can get. I mean, the record is 110.5, I think. So are they going to break the record? I guess we'll see. Running out of time. They better hurry.
Yeah, and at this point, it's tough to upgrade.
Having that
You know,
24, having a 24 on your, on your, can't even talk. Having a 24 inch, that's a big deal, man.
yeah, it
For your
is.
for your score, it's huge. So Peyton can get just a few more. Just needs to get out there. I imagine those guys are probably on the water right now.
Oh, I bet they are. When we talked to Brennan earlier in the year, he was on the water that night talking to us and fishing at the same time, and I'm sure they're out there, duking it out with each other, and it's fun to watch.
Yeah, sure is.
So what after Palmy, we've got Bull Shoals, we've got Stockton, and then the championship, right, man? So we've got a couple events left. It seems like it's flying by, but we still got a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah, I know. It seems like we just got started, but we're actually getting to be about the halfway point of the season. We're about ready to, go over that hump and start working towards that final AOI and the Missouri State Championship and the All American.
Yeah, a lot of tournaments left to fish. A lot of especially after our season's done. We got a lot of stuff going on. I saw you posted on Facebook earlier this week about the Taney 20. Let's talk about that real quick and get into it. So the top 20 finishers in AOI from this year, they'll fish in that tournament next year. Is that correct?
That's correct. We're going to make it an annual event. We're too big to be fishing on Taneycomo next year, so it's going to be removed from our trail. But everybody we love Taneycomo. Especially it's a great kayak friendly lake, and it's got big bass in there. So we're gonna figure out a way to keep it on our schedule for 2021, and we're gonna go with the Taney 20. We're gonna make it a spring championship, It's going to be invite only. To qualify for this event, you need to be in the top 20 in AOY points for this season. So 20 people will get the chance to compete on Taneycomo next spring for a chance to win $500 with no entry fee. So it's going to be a free entry, and I think guys are going to love it. So it's going to be a way to kick off our season. Have a little bit of the winner's going to have a little bit of bragging rights going into the season. Working towards that AOY. So it's just a little spring championship I think we're going to do next year on Taneycomo for the top 20 from this season.
Yeah, man, it should be a good event. Good place to fish. Especially with 20 guys. If they both split up between Empire and Rockaway, like most guys do. That's still a lot of water for those guys to fish, and definitely a great fishery.
Yeah, and I'm going to start working on it too. We can probably get some more sponsorship involvement with this, so we can up it a little bit. I mean, that's the 500 right now. The first place is just us. That's with no sponsors whatsoever. So it's only going to get better, and I think it can grow into something pretty cool.
Yeah, it's definitely a good event to look forward to. Taneycomo, top 5 guys. Zach Reynolds, he finished in 5th. 78 inches. He kind of squeaked in there at the end, it seemed like. I don't know if he submitted his fish late or if he just, kind of caught a limit at the end of the day or some upgrades, but he did well. Keaton, I'm going to screw up his name.
Keaton Vogley.
Thank you. 79 3/4. I talked to him at Truman. He said he was down here for work. Is that, have you talked to him much?
Yeah, yeah, they travel around for their job, him and Lance Brio, and so they're here in Missouri this year, so they're fishing with us, so they'll be here for the rest of the season.
Yeah, super nice guy. Definitely, he's done well in some of the online stuff, and
he's creeping
stuff.
Up there. I mean, he's a contender for that Rookie of the Year too. We haven't even really gotten into that. I need to start checking that out, but we got some hot rookies this year.
Yeah, so it's cool to see him and new guys that are not necessarily from Missouri fishing. Richie McMichael, which we'll have him on here in a little bit, 81 3/4. Had a good day on the water. Richie, he's just open. He's not worried about people catching his fish or using his techniques. Getting to talk to him was really good. It's always
absolutely, yeah, that's the truth. And not only is he a great guy, but he's one of the best bass anglers that I know. I mean, he's an incredible fisherman.
Good guy. Josh Martin, and I'm not for sure about Keaton, but I think Josh Martin was the only guy that put in down there at Empire that finished in that top 5. I think all the 4 other guys were put in at Rockaway. If I'm not for sure about Keaton, but I think Zach, Richie, and Dorman, they were up there near Rockaway. I don't think Dorman put in at Rockaway, but I think he was between there. But to have one guy that finished top 5 down there is kind of interesting. Kind of makes you wonder if all those fish are further up the lake or where they're at. But he finished with 83 3/4. And then Dorman Huey, 85 1/2, defended his lake. And then he had a 19 3/4. And I think you were there when he caught that one. Is that right?
Yeah, I was out there trying to get some footage of guys, and I was chasing down Dorman, and I come right on him. I saw him, and I saw where he was sitting, and I started paddling towards him. And I saw him set the hook and his rod just doubles over. And I was like, oh, man, he's got a good one. I saw it splash, and I was like, oh, yeah. I didn't quite get it all on film like I thought I did. But, yeah, I was right there and saw the whole thing. And that was the fish that was ultimately worth over $700, 19 3/4.
That's cool. That's awesome, man. So since you know where he's at, you can probably start charging people for his waypoints and stuff like that. And
it was on Facebook Live. Everybody saw it. He even pointed out the dock he caught it on. So everybody's probably going to be on that dock.
Yep. And you see 6 kayaks out there next time you go out there. Well, man, let's get into it with Richie. Let's talk to him. But seriously, this year's been great. I know it's been really tough with the pandemic and other stuff going on, but it's still been a great year for MoYak. It's really cool to see what's all happening this year and all the guys fishing in our clubs. Seriously, I think we've got one of the better clubs. I don't know about the Midwest. I don't know about many other clubs that are probably as big or as numbers as we have.
It's been a good year. I mean, we've really adapted and overcome a lot of stuff, and hopefully, man, I know I've said this It seems like I've said this several times before, but hopefully we can get back to normal and start having our live tournaments like we're used to having. So hopefully at Palm de Terre, man, I don't even know if I want to say we're going to be live, but who knows what's going to happen with the way things are right now. But I really hope that we can have a live get together award ceremony at Palm de Terre. And as of right now, we are going to have a live awards at Palm de Terre.
Yeah, should be a good time. It's always a great time getting together and hanging out with everybody and seeing everybody.
Absolutely.
Well, man, do we have any messages from our sponsors or anything like that we're going to throw in there before we get to Richie?
I just want to mention that if anyone is needing some kayak work done or anything in Joplin, Extreme Sports and Scuba, they're temporarily closed right now due to this pandemic and things that are going on. So they will be open back up, but right now they're temporarily closed. So I wanted to let some of the guys in the Joplin area know that.
Yeah, they should be back open pretty quick once everything gets back to normal.
I also wanted to let everybody know that the catchboard order that everybody put in for, I paid for that today, and the order's been placed. They should be delivered within the next couple weeks, and I will have them before Palm de Terre. So everyone will get their new boards at Palmy.
Nice, that's awesome, man. Well, cool, man. Let's get into it. Let's talk to Richie.
Let's do it.
Hey guys, well, here is the part of the show where we're gonna try and get some of the anglers together that finished well this weekend at Taneycomo. We got Richie McMichael with us. What's up, Richie? How are you, man?
What's going on, guys? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. Thanks for being on here again. Congratulations on your third place finish this weekend.
Cool. Thanks, man. Appreciate
great.
it.
Great job.
Thanks.
Well, let's get right into it, man. Talk to us about your weekend. Kind of the first, where I want to start off of is, pre-fishing. Did you get to pre-fish at all the week before? And if you did, do you feel like that was the same bite on tournament day?
No, I didn't get any pre-fishing, and the last time I fished Taneycomo was when I seen you down there. I think it was March, maybe.
Yeah, that was a couple months ago.
Yeah, I just didn't have any days off. Been taking a lot of days off traveling and fishing and stuff. So I came down Friday night and stayed with Hillman, and so no pre-fishing. Got to see him eat a bolt at Big Whiskey's.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah. We're gonna have to talk about that for a minute here. I've seen that picture, and I swear, whoever was sitting at that table, you guys all ate that cheese dip. That bowl was in an empty bowl of cheese. So
I think I ate half of each bowl. So
I heard Brian said Mellencamp ate some too, but Jeff denies it.
But actually, I got up. Went to use the restroom, and I came back, and all of a sudden, the manager's there at the table. Was like, "What the heck's going on?" I guess there's a big bolt in the middle of the cheese dip, but
it is a good cheese dip.
Yeah, they should have at least gave all of you guys a free meal or something, because you clearly were all eating around the bolt.
I thought we were going to get it free, but then they came.
That's funny, man. Those are the kind of stories that happen, when you're on it. You never know what's going to happen when you're out, on the road or fishing a tournament. Just funny little things like that. And a restaurant, man, a bolt and a bowl of cheese dip. And you guys ate all the cheese. Didn't care.
I think we ate it even after we found the bowl.
It looks like you licked the bowl clean and put the bolt back in there for the picture. That's all right. You can't waste good cheese. I get it.
Yeah, no, man. Anyway, back to fishing. I didn't get to do any pre-fishing at all or anything like that. Now I kind of messaged Brian to see if there's any Hotel Hillman vacancies left at his house. So luckily he let me come down and stay. So I didn't, because the resort didn't have any places left. Too hot to sleep in the truck, so I wanted to stay somewhere close. And I know Brian makes breakfast burritos every time we stay with him. That needs to become a tradition of his.
It should.
Got to eat one of those every morning.
He needs to bring him to the boat ramp and just start handing them out.
But yeah, I stayed there with him in Mellencamp. We got up pretty early, so we want you know how that boat ramp fills up really quick at Rockaway Beach. So we even got there at 4 o'clock in the morning, and we took the last 2 spots. I think it was already loaded with kayak.
How many people? How many people do you think were there?
I think at least half the field. There's probably 20, at least 25, somewhere around there. But yeah, when we got loaded up, I was like, man, we're gonna have a lot of pressure in every spot. It's gonna be crazy. But soon as we take off at 5 o'clock, I go around. I come out of the ramp and go left. Start going that way. And about a minute later, I turn around. There's only like 2 kayaks behind me. Everybody went the other way. So I'm like, yes, we're gonna be not gonna have much pressure where we're at and stuff. And which really didn't. I only seen like maybe 5 kayakers in the area I was all day. It was pretty awesome morning, man. Your lights wouldn't work because of all the fog. You couldn't see anything at all. But so I just had to go by my GPS and look up my GPS. I couldn't see anything. It was insane. I didn't know if you guys had that down where you guys are at. But you know, takes me about 20 minutes to get to where I was going, and as soon as I turn around and go into the cove, it's thick grass. You could not. I had the Hobie, so you couldn't pedal through it. Luckily, I brought an actual full paddle today because I was kind of figuring I'd be paddling through some thick stuff. I get to my spot, start fishing, and there's a light about 20 yards ahead of me, but there's a dock there. So I figure it's just a little light on a dock because it's not moving, not making any noise. So as soon as 5:30 hits, first cast, I start fishing, and it's starting to get light enough where I can see. And I see there's a kayaker like 15 yards in front of me. I didn't even know it because it was so foggy and stuff. But then I noticed it was dormant. So I was like, man, what am I going to do? I'm not going to sit here and fish right behind him all day. So I paddled to the other side of the cove and start fishing. We're basically straight across from each other when we were fishing. And I think in the first hour, he had 5 fish and I had 0. And it's kind of rattled me a little bit. It's like, what's he doing over there? Is that just the good side? Is that side where all the fish are at? It's like then finally, I got a 18-inch fish in the boat. I think it was like 6 o'clock. So that kind of makes you feel better when you get a decent fish.
Yeah, definitely.
Pretty early. And then I hook into this nether fish. It doesn't feel that big. It's kind of swimming towards me. And once it gets to the boat, I see it. And it's like, it's at least 5 pounds. It's over 5 pounds probably. And then it just takes off. And I don't have any drag set on. I'm using 12-pound line. And that when a fish that big just takes off and you're not ready for it, it's just snapped my line. I don't know where it snapped at, if it was a knot or if there was a nick in the line. I was just like, said a few words, and I look over at Dorman. He's just smiling, and he's like, sorry, I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, he's competitive. He's not afraid to tell you exactly how he feels about it.
Yeah, but yeah, he's continuing to catch fish on that side. I was like, man. So I just keep fishing, doing my thing, and I ended up getting 4 fish in that cove, but it was like 11 o'clock, and I still only had 4 fish. So the fish weren't kind of biting. I knew they were in there because I could see them. I could see the big ones at the surface in the middle, coming up at the top, the middle of all the grass, but I just couldn't find anything. I couldn't get anything to bite them. So I was like, man, should I stay in this cove or should I kind of make a move? Because every year at Taneycomo, I always kind of do the same thing, hit the same spots, start in the same area. So that's kind of basically what I was going to do. But for some reason, I had a hunch just to head up to a different spot, to go across the lake and fish the side I usually don't fish. And I know the water temperature over on that side was like 58 degrees. So I'm like, man, these largemouths probably aren't over here. But I thought about giving it a shot because it was just tough. It was tough.
What was the water temperature where you started out at?
It was in the 70s. It wasn't very
It was a lot
warm.
warm. It was a lot warmer than what the other side was in.
Yeah, I think it was low 70s, if I can remember correctly. But I know. But as soon as I get to that side and I like when I cast the lure, I get the water spots on my face and stuff, and it's like, man, that's cold. So I reached down, it's like, wow. And that's when I noticed it's like 58 degrees. I'm like, we'll give it a shot for like 30 minutes or so. So I kind of gave it a shot, and I think it was around 11:30, and I hit 3 fish right in a row, 14, an 18 and a half, and a 14 on a little jig. And that was it. Actually, that was all the fish that I caught all day. I caught 7 fish, and 2 of those fish were a 10-inch and around an 8-inch. So, and I didn't even take pictures of those. So that means I just kind of took pictures of 5 fish. So I kind of got lost there. But because at that point, whenever I kind of filled out my limit and had about 81 and a quarter or whatever I had, it was about 11:30, 11:45. So I was like, yeah, I still got like 2.5 hours. Like, man, I still got some good spots to hit. I should get more fish to bite. I should get some upgrades. But it just never happened. I fished all the docks on the way back, those little pockets. I went back over to the cold side and just was throwing my jig. Just did not get a single bite the rest of the day. But luckily, the ones that I did get were decent enough size where was able to get 3rd place, man. Getting top 3 on these MoYak tournaments with 50 plus people. It's getting tough to do, man. There's getting a lot of good anglers joining, and especially with like Dorman, Lance, and then Jim. It's hard to beat these guys. These guys know these lakes really well, and they spend a lot of time on them.
They sure do. We've got some really good sticks, and it's been really cool to see, especially on the online side, where those guys can take their time and fish more areas. I think Peyton and Brandon, they're both sitting at like 107 and 108 inches, and I'm almost positive that they're fishing Taneycomo and just, fishing throughout the week, and they're quite a bit, and we sure do have some sticks in our club here.
Yeah, I think I've seen that. One of those guys put up a 22-inch a day or 2 after we fished Taneycomo at Taneycomo. But, I remember seeing those guys didn't want to fish this tournament because they didn't want to give up their spots. But
I'm sure they got fished.
If they have spots that good to throw up those kind of numbers in the summertime, man, I don't know if I'd want to give them up either.
Yeah.
But
so it seems like just for me as well, it seemed like it was an all-day grind. Most of my fish were on a chatterbait, and I think I had one on a frog and nothing special. But I mean, it definitely seemed like the bite completely changed from what I heard from other guys the day before to that day. We were talking about how the water dropped the day before, to the tournament day. I mean, what do you think? Do you think that really affects the fish? Do you think they notice that?
If the water's dropping, that always affects the fish. That's the last time you want to fish, when the water's dropping fast like that. If the water's rising a little bit, that's okay. But I think if the water's falling really fast, that kind of pushes those fish either out in the middle or out in the middle of those coves. And but I don't know, I'm no expert, but usually when water's dropping like that, it's kind of tough fishing in my experience. So, but anyway, yeah, for some reason those fish had lockjaw on out there that day, because I seen a lot of those fish that were caught the day before, and I know that they didn't stick them all. So
yeah,
there's a lot of fish to be caught in there, and but like the day before, someone put up what their predictions were for this lake. Everybody's putting in the 90s. Some people are putting hundreds. I'm like, it's going to be fun if that happens. But, every tournament I've fished at Taneycomo, I've fished probably 4 or 5. They've all been MoYak, KBF. I think back to 2017, I started fishing them. I think the biggest limit caught during those tournaments has been mid 80s, 85, 86. But I think most of those you schedule most of those tournaments in the summertime, though. I do believe, just because But 85 inches is pretty good limit, especially in that little areas with when you have like 50, 60 people.
Yeah, definitely.
Competing.
Yeah, and that's another reason why we're going to be changing it up for next year and not really have a trail event on Taneycomo, because it's just not really fun for that many people to go out there and fish. You're all just fishing on top of each other. So
yeah, I know it was small. I know Taneycomo has been one of those lakes where I don't think I've finished ever outside the top 5. So it's gonna stink to see it go leave the trail.
I know, man. It was one of my favorite lakes too. I mean, when I was competing with MoYak as well, you could always count on catching a big bass on Taneycomo. It seemed, sometimes she would shut down, and it would be tough. I've had several times where I've gone out there and not even got a bite, but there's big bass in there, and sometimes you can just get on them and just slay them, and it's so much fun.
Yeah, it's just cool. Almost 100 degrees out, and you're fishing in 50-degree water, and you catch those fish. You're trying to hold them on your board, and they're just so cold you can barely. Actually, so.
They were. They. You could. It was wild. You got them on there, and you're like, oh my gosh, this fish it's freezing.
Yeah, it felt freezing, but it's 58 degrees, but still, how hot it was, it felt like they were freezing.
Yeah, got back to at Empire Park. Got back to the ramp, and I was talking to Ox Fishing, and we were talking about how there's probably not another lake in not that we know of that's like Taneycomo, where it's got that cold water coming off. It just makes it, almost a gem here in the Ozarks.
It is very unique, and that's why we may not be able to have the trail event on there, but we're going to do the Taney 20. The top 20 in AOY points for MoYak. You're going to get an invite to go fish on Taneycomo with no entry fee. So that's going to be pretty cool. So 20 people on Taneycomo is going to be a fun time.
Yeah, that sounds like fun, and a perfect time of year to fish the lake too. So
yeah, probably do it sometime in early March is what I'm looking at. I haven't really got it locked in yet, but it's up in the air. But I think it's going to be cool to bring a new event into MoYak like the Taney 20.
Yeah, and that time of year, I know these guys this year were catching 95 to 100 inches in just 2 hours on that lake in the spring, so that'll be fun.
Yeah, that's right.
I want to be in the top 20 to fish that. So.
Yeah, that day that we were both up there, I think you did pretty well. That one day you were on there, and I mean, you and Hillman, you guys weren't there all day, or were you guys?
No, not all day. I think I got 90 inches in that little cove in like 30 minutes.
Yeah,
I didn't get any more than that, but there's sweet spots in there that you just catch one right after another.
Yeah.
I was hoping to hook into one of those 23-inch fish that he was catching in there, but man, one of these days I'm going to get one.
Yeah, that 24 came out of there too. All these monster bass have been coming out of there, so it's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Josh, what else you got for Richie, man? What else you want to know about Taneycomo?
I'd like to ask Richie how he approached fishing that vegetation. Did you look at a certain type of grass, and how did you attack it?
No, I basically, in this cove, I'm really not fishing the grass per se. The whole cove is all grass, but on the outsides, around the banks, there's like a few feet or anywhere from 2, 3 up to 10 feet out from the banks where there is no grass. So, what I was targeting was inside the grass lines. Because a lot of the fish will be up there. They'll be feeding on all the bait fish. And it's just so much easier to catch them that way. You could go out and probably flip the heavier grass and catch them like that. But you get your bait caught up, and it was harder to do. So I just thrown a weightless bait in the morning, just a little weightless Texas rig Cinco. And I like to go around the banks. Because the water was up a little bit, and there was a lot of flooded stuff. It wasn't very deep, but a lot of the fish were up in there. And that basically, I don't really target the grass per se. I basically target just the banks in those coves that are bare, that are easy to get to, so I can pedal through. I know one of the things that would be pretty beneficial is to get a kayak that a paddle kayak for some of these grass lakes like that, because you just can't pedal through it. You can't motor through it. The only thing you can do is paddle, and paddle in a big Hobie is not a great idea. But yeah, I try after the morning bite goes away, you know. But one thing that stumbled me on this lake is I always catch a good fish or two on a buzzbait, and I could not get a buzzbait bite at all.
You weren't doing it right.
No, maybe not. Maybe I didn't have your little finesse.
You probably had it upside down or something like that.
Probably. But yeah, I couldn't get a bite on the buzzbait. So, and usually I can get a quick limit there in Taney, just throwing around the banks inside the grass lines and stuff. With just a rare Texas rig Cinco, I was throwing an all black. And I did get the 18-inch fish early on it, and I did break a bigger fish off on it. So it did its job. But then I picked up a chatterbait or jackhammer, whatever, and started throwing it just everywhere out in the middle and ripping it through grass. But it gets tiresome ripping a jackhammer through that heavy grass.
Yes, it does. Especially if you got tendonitis. That really hurts.
Yeah, and you know, I basically that's what I did all morning. And then once they quit biting on it, and I know because it was me and Dorman going around that cove, and those fish were they were just seeing a lot of lure. They're probably, and the fish were extremely spooky. You couldn't get close to them, and if they seen you, they were gone. They weren't going to bite. So I think that was another issue. I don't know, maybe because the water was falling a little bit and it's making them extra spooky. I don't know, but
that's just kind of a Taneycomo thing. Those fish are spooky all the time. You got to make long casts and cast beyond the fish and bring it through them. That's kind of a normal Taney thing. If anybody's coming down to bass fish it, those fish are spooky, and they're smart too, and they know you're coming, so you got to be sneaky.
And yeah, one thing one of my plans for Taney coming down there was throw a small little jig. I wanted a jig that can kind of, throw in the grass. It's a 3/8 ounce jig, but it's really small, compact profile. It's a Kitech casting jig, and it can be used, flipping it. You also use as a swim jig. And I know, fishing grass all the time, swim jig's a big staple. But I was throwing that thing. That's what I picked up after like 9 o'clock when my Cinco bite died, the jig, and I just could not get a bite in the grass with it. I was ripping it through the grass. I'd see big bass come up and boil on little bait fish, and I'd cast in there, and I could not get them to hit anything. I threw a popper on. That didn't work at all. And usually during a Taneycomo tournament, I always pick up one good fish on the cold side, always, for some reason. So that's why I kind of decided to head over there, and I threw that same Kitech jig. And I think I was sitting in 12 to 14 foot of water most of the time, casting up to 4. And I think the 3 fish I caught were in about 8 to 10. And yeah, when I go into Taneycomo, I always go, there's always a morning bite, buzzbait bite. Then they love the Cinco there, as they do everywhere. But and a lot of those fish get on those docks too. When the sun comes up, they're not there. You have to hit them just right. They're not there until the afternoon, in my experience. So I know a lot of people went through those docks like last year when I was fishing that tournament, and no one caught anything. Then I hit it just right coming in and got a couple upgrades. Mm-hmm. So
it's about the timing.
But yeah, and that's kind of what it kind of fishing is, a lot of timing. You just got to be in the right spot, right time with the right bait. But one thing I would do differently, when I caught those 3 fish in a row, I kept going. I didn't because everything looks the same. I should have turned around and went the other way and started fishing that same area, because who knows, maybe there's a big school there but
That's
But
fishing.
yeah,
Never know.
it's fishing, man, and it's just a blast out there competing. Whether you catch 5 fish or you catch 30 fish,
Yeah.
but
Good time.
Yeah, we're glad you come down and join us, man. Appreciate it.
yeah, that's what I like to do. I've fished the Kansas City clubs, the Wichita clubs. I've been up to Nebraska. I've been down up to Iowa. I've been down to Missouri. I just love traveling around, competing against different people. It's just, I just don't know what people do with their lives if they don't fish.
What tournament are you heading to next?
Mm,
What's up next on the McNasty schedule?
Well, I'm thinking probably I want to try to go to the Bass River. That
The
thing,
lacrosse?
yeah,
You
I
should.
I want to redeem myself from last time. I hate having that bad finish. On the taste on your tongues, but because I know if I go back, I kind of got a better game plan of what I'm going to do and where I'm going to be at. So that's on the schedule. I'm hoping to make it there. Definitely Lake Dardanelle is one I'm going to be at for sure. And
Have you qualified for the Bassmaster Championship next year?
yes, I did.
Awesome. Okay, cool.
It's the 7th at Lake Fork. So,
That's where I
but yeah,
got
Dardanelle. That's the Hobie thing. I haven't been struggling a little bit in the Hobie stuff, so I'm hoping to do good there and qualify for the TOC because definitely want to be there. I don't want to be fishing it the day before to qualify. So
Yeah, for
hopefully
sure.
have a good finish there and get qualified. So and all the MoYak tournaments in between. So I definitely want to. I know we're in a pretty tight race for the AOY, so it's getting very.
Yeah, it's almost like a 5-way race. It's getting really close. And I mean, once you start dropping scores, it really changes a lot too. So,
Yeah, and I know last year, yeah, I fished my butt off, and I thought I did really well, and I could only crack the top 5 last year. So this year, my goal is to kind of do a little bit better, and because I only fished 5 last year, I'm going to try to fish them all. I'm going to try to fish Palmy, Stockton, and Bull Shoals.
cool.
I want to try to win that thing. It's going to be tough to beat Lance and Dorman, but I like the challenge.
You got Troy Inke and Brian Hillman and Ty Ward that might have something to say about that too.
Those guys are still in it too. There's 3 tournaments left, and they still have 2 or 3 or 2 tournaments they can throw away. So
Yeah, it's gonna be exciting to see how this Angler of the Year race plays out.
absolutely, yeah. I don't mean to leave any names out, but I know Jim Harding's there too. He's going to be in the mix for but the main goal is definitely get top 10 for sure. Is get to the All American. So
Yes, the All American.
Well, Richie, man, thanks for being on here again, and congratulations on your 3rd place finish. And good luck the rest of this year, man. Good luck at your Hobie stuff and the Bassmaster stuff. And thanks for being on here, man.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me, guys. Have a good one.
Yep. Good night, man.
Josh, we just got done talking to Richie, man. Just a wealth of knowledge, as we said before. Great guy. Except I've actually got Josh Martin. He just hit us up, and he's ready to go and get on here, and I think it'll be interesting to see, to hear what he caught him on and how his day went as well.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, Richie came in 3rd and Josh came in 2nd. So to hear each of their perspectives, maybe where they fished and what their patterns were and compare them might be a good tool for some people that are wanting to come to Taneycomo and, get some insight on how to fish. So I'm interested to see how this is going to work out. So let's talk to Josh and get this going.
All right, man, let's get him going. Bring him on here. Well, we were able to get Josh Martin with us. Josh, what's up, man? How are you?
Not too bad, man. How y'all doing?
We are doing good. Josh and I are here. We want to talk to you about Taneycomo, man. You finished 2nd. You had a good tournament. Let's get right into it. Did you have any time to pre-fish Taneycomo or anything like that?
None at all. I showed up Friday night around 11 o'clock at night, pulled up to a truck stop, slept in my car for a few hours, and went straight to the boat ramp.
Hardcore. Dang.
We talked to Rich McMichael a little bit ago, and he was saying the same thing. He didn't get much pre-fishing, so he kind of went into the tournament day blind as well, and it looks like it panned out for you guys. Where did you put in at Taney?
I put in Empire.
Empire.
And where did you go from there? Did you go up river quite a ways, or did you stay pretty close to there?
So I put in there, and then I got a torpedo. So once I got out in the main lake, got past all that slop that was right there. I just turned that torpedo on, and I went as far as I could that I could see because it was dark for a while. Went up in a cove, probably about a mile up, and fished that cove until the sunlight broke.
So, what was it for you? What was the bite like? Was it an all-day grind kind of deal for you, or was it kind of hit the right spot at the right time?
It was. I found the right spot at the right time. I was telling Richie, earlier right after the tournament, the first 4 hours I didn't have nothing. I kept getting like little nibbles, probably like bluegill or something like that. I didn't get nothing the first 4 hours, and then I motored on up the river a little bit farther, and then found this really long cove. Had a bunch of kayaks and boats that were lined up on the outside of the slop, and there was like a little trail on the inside of the slop. So I powered my way through the slop and then fished that little trail in between the slop and the bank, and I just started nailing them in there.
Sounds like it was a pretty popular spot.
Yeah, when I first seen it, I almost tried not to go in there, but I was like, nah, I'll go on the inside. So I was like, I didn't want to get crowded or get anywhere near those guys. So I just went on the inside. I'm glad I did because they all were out there struggling. I started nailing them. Next thing I know, I see them starting to come inward.
There's a lot of differences in the water temperature out there. What was it right there where you were catching your fish at?
So right when I came into the cove, I measured it for 45 degrees, but as soon as I went into the cove, it jumped up to about 65. And when I got to the back of the cove, at one point I had about 75.
So you think the fish were relating more to that warmer water?
Yeah, most of where I found them was in the warmer water. I think right around the 68 to 72 degree mark is where I was finding them all, and everything was no more than 2 feet of water.
It's crazy how shallow those fish on Taneycomo can be. You can catch a monster in like 8 inches of water, and you don't even know how they're in that shallow of water, but they seem to not mind.
Yeah, I think they were just getting up in that slop and hiding out up in that slop. Like I said, as soon as I went in that cove, I would say 45 minutes, I had my 5. 45 minutes going down that cove, I had 5, and 3 of them was over 17. So
you found one of them spots. That's what Taneycomo is known for. You get into those wolf packs and you can just slay them.
Yeah, I'm grateful for it. So I think I spent probably about 2 or 3 hours in that cove. Yeah, I didn't want to leave it.
I bet.
How many other kayakers did you see in that cove while you were in there?
3, I think. 3 other kayakers, and then there was about 3 or 4 boats that either were in there or came in there later on.
Did you see any, way back in the cove spawning or anything like that? Did you see any fish hanging out on beds or anything like that?
And most of them I got were about midway through the cove. I didn't really get anything all the way in the back of the cove. That's me. It was hard. I throw Cinco, catch this weightless rig mostly, and that's not going to break through that slop. So I couldn't really get anything back of the cove.
Yeah, that's what I was going to kind of ask you. How did you attack that slop, and how did you figure out how to fish it? And you don't have to say exactly what you used, but I mean, how did you catch those fish in that?
I mean, I'm not one of those guys that just try to sit there and hold off what I use. Basically, like I said, I got on the inside of the slop. There was like a clear trail that was probably like 10 feet wide, and I got my kayak in there, pulled the torpedo up, and just floated through that. Just kept throwing that Cinco worm in there, test this weightless rig. And most of the time, it would just fall to the bottom, give it a pop, and then slow reel, and they were taking it right there.
Yeah, I think, after talking to Richie and after talking to you, you guys have both explained almost an identical pattern, and it's one that I've used on Taneycomo in the past before. And I think the secret's out now. When you're fishing on Taneycomo, if you can find that little gap between the shoreline and that slop, it may only be like the width of your kayak, but if you can run a bait through there, you'll catch fish.
Yeah, I mean, prior to that, I was throwing everything I had in the boat. I started with no buzz bait, top water. I threw a spinner bait. I threw a jig. I threw a swim bait. I'm pretty much, I have 8 poles in my kayak, all with a different setup, and nothing was working until that Cinco. That Cinco is my go-to.
Right on, man. Well, it worked for you. I mean, congratulations on your second place. That was
I
it's kind of a
appreciate it. I
tough
mean,
tournament.
it felt good. It's been a while since I've been, in the money, so it felt good.
Well, we haven't had you on here before, and let's kind of backtrack, and maybe we should have done this at the beginning. But tell us about yourself. I mean, where are you from, and kind of what you do, man?
So I'm a retiree out of the Army. I retired out of Fort Leavenworth, Kansas. My last duty station, kind of just stuck there in Kansas City. After I got out, I decided I didn't want to be a cop no more. That's what I did in the military. And I went to IT school for about 4 months, and then got hired on as a DoD contractor. So that's what I'm doing now. I'm back on Fort Leavenworth working as a contractor.
How did you get into kayak fishing?
Actually, so I was stationed at Fort Linwood, Missouri back in like 2010, and my best friend John Newlands, who also fishes show in the MoYak tournaments, we were there together. We got into fishing, but we weren't into kayaks back then. So we were always like wading up the Big Piney, wading up Roboco Creek and or Robichaux Creek, whatever it's called, and we were just fishing. And then from there, I went out to Hawaii, and I kept telling John when I came back from Hawaii, I was going to buy a bass boat. So apparently, while I was gone, somebody got him into kayak fishing. So when I got back to Fort Leavenworth, he's like, "Hey, you still planning on buying a bass boat?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "No, man, you need to buy a kayak first."
He
So
was smart.
yeah, so like I went and bought like a cheap Bass Pro Ascend, FS 128T, I think it was. I called it the Battle Ass. That thing was huge, and first time I went out on it, I got hooked, and then he let me borrow, or he sold me his old Jackson Big Tuna, and since I went out on that, I was definitely hooked at that point. So in a matter of, I think I was 2014, so 6 years now, I'm on my 8th kayak.
That's cool, man. So what are you fishing out of now?
I have a bona fide SS 127 limited edition. I got Black Widow, number 4.
Yeah.
That's
The
pretty.
bona fides. The bona fides. That's what I'm talking about. None of them feel freeze, Josh. The bona fides.
I've been a Jackson guy all the way up until this year. I mean, I went from a Jackson Big Tuna to a Cuda HD to the Coosa FD when they came out. And then last year I had the Big Rig FD HD. But this year I wanted that limited edition. And, I was working with KBF for the last couple of years. So I was able to work a deal and get that kayak. And, I love it. It's stable. And throwing the torpedo on that thing, it moves.
Right on. Well, besides MoYak, are you fishing any other trails, or what's next on your schedule?
This year, I kind of had to pull back a little because I started a new job, on base there. I was a Marine Corps contractor, and then now I moved on base, and my job required a lot of traveling. So I pulled back this year to get settled into the job. So I'm just fishing MoYak this year, and that's it. Years past, I've done them all. I was going 20 tournaments a year, going to KBF one. Josh, you see me all over the place. Going MoYak. I did NECA for a while. I mean, I was doing them all, but I had to pull back this year.
It's understandable, man, for sure.
I think a lot of. I want to say once I get settled in the job next year, I might pick back up on KBF tournament. But for right now, I cruising with MoYak. I love MoYak. MoYak. This is like my third club, best club I've been in. I love the guys. It's a fun club, fun tournaments. I love going to them.
Yeah, we're lucky to have such a great group of guys down here.
I just wish you had a little bit more tournaments up north by Kansas City.
Need some better water up by Kansas City.
I do agree with that. I do agree with that. I mean, we be traveling down south in Missouri for all the rivers and stuff. I love doing the rivers. So.
You know, Josh, our next event is that Extreme River Bonanza. You know, you talked about the Big Piney and the Rubidoo, and I mean, are you planning on fishing that tournament?
Oh, I'm fishing it. Last year I fished it. Me and my teammate last year, which was John Newland, we did the Big Piney. You know, we did it on Fort Leonard because obviously we have special access. We did the Fort Leonard portion of it. It wasn't a bad tournament, but I want something new this year. So I'm going somewhere I haven't been yet.
Cool, man. That's exciting. Definitely seems like rivers is where most guys start off, and it's cool to see we're gonna go back there and have a tournament on the river, and we're gonna put Josh to work is what we're gonna do. We're thousands of fish. Hopefully he has to judge because it'll be a good time.
Yeah, everyone really does like being on the river. I mean, I think it's in all of our roots, whether we started out wading or in a canoe or, even a kayak or whatever. A lot of us, especially in this region, in southern Missouri, we got so many awesome creeks and rivers around here. I think it's just in our blood. I mean, we kind of evolved into the lakes from the creeks, but that's one of the reasons why next year on our schedule we're going to have 2 river tournaments instead of just one. So,
sweet. That'd be
yeah.
Cool.
During the summer next year, we're going to make it during July and August. We're going to have, when it's really hot out, that's where we're going to have our 2 river tournaments. That way we'll be in the shade and in a little bit of cooler area and get off the lakes during the heat. So there's a little leak right there. We're going to have 2 river tournaments next year.
Yeah, what I like about river tournaments is, your whole environment can change every quarter mile down the river. I mean, you get on the lake, it's pretty much the same. Like you're on a huge lake and you go from one side to the other, you're going to be in the same stuff. But a river, I mean, every half mile it could be something different. It could be rapids, you need to have a tool, you can find an offset. I mean, that's what I love about rivers. And then it's less work. I mean, it really just flows the current.
Yeah, I think everyone feels the same way. I think we all love being on the river.
I'm looking forward to it.
Right on.
Should be a good time. So you gonna spill the beans? You gonna let us know where you're going, or are you gonna keep that a secret?
Well, I got a feeling I'm going to be at the same location as old Josh there. I mean, cause he kind of let this area go, so I don't know if he's going there or not.
I'm not fishing in any MoYak event this year, so.
Well, I don't care. I'm going to Shoal Creek. I haven't been there. Josh said it was a good place. Not a lot of people floating down the river, and that's the thing. Like, me and John and my brother-in-law, we did a river trip a couple weeks ago, and there was over 10,000 people partying on the river, and it just got annoying. So
yeah,
I want to find that. Find that remote area.
That's going to be a key factor for the tournament too, Mike. That's going to be a key factor for the tournament too, is, getting away from the party crowds. On a Saturday on a river around here, especially in the Ozarks, that's where everybody goes. Everybody goes to the rivers to float and to drink beer and to have a good time. So it kind of messes up the fishing.
Yeah, that's how it was last year. I told you I did the Big Piney on base, and you would think on base would be more remote. If you got all the privates on the weekend passes floating down the river.
Well, Josh, man, sorry to interrupt kind of your vacation and stuff like that, and appreciate you coming on here, man, and congrats again, man, on your second place finish and cashing a check, man. Look forward to see you on that, that river tournament, see how you do, and the rest of the MoYak tournaments, man.
I appreciate it, man. I look forward to it. Like I said, I enjoy it. I love MoYak.
Is there any companies or sponsors or anything like that you'd like to give a shout out to?
I don't really have a lot of sponsors. I got pro staffs. Obviously I'm on the St. Croix pro staff, so I love those rods. That's all I use. I'll stand by St. Croix all day, every day. I know, Sean, I think, Josh, you're Kistler, right? So,
absolutely.
But I love St. Croix, guys. I started with blues, but when I first time I picked up St. Croix, I was like, I never want to pick up another rod after that. Best rod on earth. They make a good rod. Yeah, best rod on earth, as they say. Other than that, though, just bona fide. I love the kayaks. I don't really have a lot of sponsors yet. Like I said, I pulled back this year, so get pro staffs.
That's cool, man. Well, awesome, man. Thanks again for your time, and good luck the rest of this year, man.
I appreciate it.
Yep. Thanks for joining us, man. I'll see you soon.
I'll see y'all in a couple weeks.
All right, see you, man.
All right.